Hey everyone, welcome back to Gacha Interact. In today's video, we're just going to cover some of the major changes and optimizations that we are getting with 5.0. If you haven't already, you could check out the live stream we did get last week. It was very exciting and a lot of crazy changes that I feel like a lot of us haven't really expected. They're actually coming, and yes, Genshin could do it. So I'm very proud of Hoyoverse just in general, and this is a very exciting change. I cannot wait. We got so many good things, so let's just talk about that. One of those biggest things we did get is we are upon every anniversary, by the way, so this isn't just 5.0, but this is going to come back around next year and the next. But we get to choose and have a selector for a free standard 5-star character. That includes all of the current existing ones and any future ones if they get slapped on there. And speaking of that, they did hint at both in the live stream and at their developers discussion that we're taking a look at here that there might be an addition to this standard banner. So there might be an 8th character to choose from. So of course, when that character gets out, or if they even are coming out, we will talk about that for sure, and that can affect how you choose on this. So we kind of wanted to just briefly talk about, since we are getting a free 5-star standard character with the version 5.0, we want to talk about which character is possibly the best option maybe for you, or just best in general. And so Vixen, I want to ask you, what are some of your initial thoughts on this in general, and maybe what would be a good general option for most players, and then also what would be a good option for a completely new player to the game?
Well, I think, like you said, those two things are very, very good to kind of determine whether or not you want to find. It depends on where you are in the game, right? So let's just say you have none of these characters, right? And you already have some other characters in the game, and you're already kind of, well enough off, or maybe you have a few of them. Looking at the characters overall in a sense of you don't have all of them, but you're trying to just figure out, do I get more of characters I don't have? For instance, let's say you have Chi-Chi, Jean, Tighnari, and Diluc, and the only other characters you don't have are Dia, Ketching, and Mona. Out of those three, you're going to grab probably one of the three you don't have. Should you grab Dia? Should you grab Mona? Should you grab Ketching? And so hopefully one of these we can hopefully help you in looking for that. But in my personal opinion, looking over at all the characters, a lot of them recently, especially during Sumeru and during Fontaine specifically, also got huge buffs. For instance, Jean got an extremely good buff when she's paired with Farina as a great healer, and another great usage alongside of someone like Farina to actually go along and use with, because of the heals that she can do, and combined with Farina, it's just a really great team comp. Now, another character that also became really good because of obviously Sumeru, and they were already in it, is Tighnari, because of the constant ability to get spreads and whatnot, and constant reactions, hyperblooms, everything. So it's also very good for him to be, pretty good. But then you're thinking, okay, well, what about Ketching? She also kind of got a buff because of Sumeru, especially with Nahida. And so can I make that? Can I make a really good aggravate team with her, or a hyperbloom team? Yes. And then you look at someone like Dia, who at first really didn't have much usage, but then once again, Farina came along, and now all of a sudden, and especially someone like Neuvillette as well, who needs that kind of interruption resistance if you don't have his first constellation. Each of these characters, I think, has a great buff and usage ability among what's happened in the past few years with Genshin. In my personal opinion, no matter what, I think the best character in this roster is actually Dia. The interruption resistance is great, the pyro application is good, and she's pretty easy to build, and I think she's probably one of the best characters in the standard banner list right now. Now, beforehand, I think she was one of the worst, but once again, being paired with Farina, so if you have Farina, she jumps to the top of the list. If you're like, well, I already have Dia, I want to find another character that I don't have in this list, look between, like I said, Jean and Ketching. Ketching, I think, is a great character, especially with constellations. If you already have her, then she does really well as an electro DPS if you don't have one already. Jean, once again, is an amazing healer, never mind just in general as a character, using Viridescent, swirling, helping with everything else, giving great buffs and heals. She also is really good with, like I said, that Farina team, so Farina can also kind of make basically the idea of either pulling for Jean or pulling for Dia.
Yeah, there's a lot of great points you bring up. I like how you talked about, obviously, Farina increasing Jean's potential, and then, Ketching, Tighnari have a lot. I think they're honestly, when we look at the standard banner, a lot of these characters actually have a place somewhere, except maybe like Chi-Chi. If you're getting Chi-Chi, it's for collectible sake, right? You already have the other 6, so you just want to get Chi-Chi because for some reason you just have been blessed with not having a Chi-Chi yet, especially if you've been playing for longer, and for that I envy you, because I have like C2, and I'm sure a lot of us can relate. So on a more serious note, I think, like you said, Dia has high value. And one of the things I was thinking about with Dia is, we just had Emily and we're getting Kinnich soon. We're also just moving into Natlan. Are there going to be some possible teams or just teammates that Dia actually gets increased value with? Will she become a little bit better? Because one of the things that gets overlooked in her kit, and much like you already stated a little bit, especially with like Nervalette teams, is her interruption resistance. With the other things, she gets slapped on a lot because we were expecting a damage unit when she did release, but she does have some utility that I really, like I said, I think gets looked over. And so certain characters in the roster, not just Nervalette, but there are some others, and there may even be future characters that really like Dia because she can provide that interruption resistance. She is a pyro unit, so let's say that new character is a pyro character and really needs and wants that pyro interruption resistance, then maybe Dia is a good candidate, especially if you just don't have other characters. If you're a newer player, it's something to grab. And if you are someone like me, you just kind of want to collect them all, I think another good strategy for getting this free 5-star on the Selector is if you have the 4, like I know Vixen, you mentioned, like let's just say once again you have Chi-Chi, Jean, Tighnari, and D-Luke, and that narrows it down to the 3 of Dia, Ketching, and Mona. That gives you kind of that process of elimination, especially if you just want everyone to kind of just decide between those 3 and what you would kind of want the most and also what you'd need the most. And like, let's just say you're a somewhat newer player, you got Nahida on her last rerun and you don't have Ketching yet, then Ketching is a very solid choice to choose because Ketching Nahida is a very awesome synergy. It's a lot of fun and it can be powerful enough to get you through a lot of the content, if not all of it, depending on those last 2 teammates. So in general, I think there's a lot of good things you mentioned there, Vixen. And for me, the only 2 standards I don't have is Dia and Jean. And me personally, I'm going to be going after Jean because I just really want Jean, and I have Farina. I have some plans to use the Farina Jean combo, and then I'll get Dia later. But who knows? Maybe that could change. But anyways, let's know what you are going to do on the standard banner. We'd like to know your thoughts or just even your general tips for other players in the community to help them out.
With a new region around the corner and waifus popping up seemingly in every single version, no one can really blame you for going to the shop. But each of those prices looks a little bit too high for my liking. That's where today's sponsor, Loot Bar, comes in. Loot Bar is a service that allows you to top up on Genesis crystals for a cheaper price than you see in-game. Loot Bar is easy to use, free to use, and most importantly, safe to use because all you need is your UID. No emails or passwords are needed. And with almost 3,000 reviews, Loot Bar boasts plenty of positive reviews and also offers 24/7 live support that I've personally used myself and am pleasantly pleased with. Not only do they help you save for Genshin, but Star Rail as well. After completing a purchase, Loot Bar promises a maximum 30-minute wait time for delivery, but we've even gotten our crystals even sooner. They've also proven themselves trustworthy through other content creators like Jello Impact, Dukaja, Superatom, Mujin, and Tevat Times. Use the link down in the description to download Loot Bar and start saving today. Thanks again to Loot Bar for sponsoring this video, and now back to the video.
One of the other things we did want to talk about in this video, though, considering we're talking about wishing in general, the next thing we're going to look at is the optimization on the weapon banner. And that is they changed the epitomized path to needing 2 fate points to now only needing 1. And this was very unexpected, I think, from most all of us players. It's just, wow, it really came out of left field, slapped me in the face, and it was just awesome. Like, now we don't have to worry about, building the 2 fate points, because even with that fate point system going up to 2, I know a while back there was a Hu Tao Yelan banner and I was trying to get Hu Tao's weapon. So I obviously epitomized the path for it and I lost and got Yelan's weapon, but then turned around and got Staff of Homa as well. And so I had 1 fate point, but then got what I wanted. And so it kind of just nullified it and just felt really unsatisfying because I'm like, I was filling that gauge up and now it's just gone. And so I feel like with this, even aside from that, is, it's making the weapon banner actually have a lot more value. And so maybe even in future videos, as we continue to do our to pull or not to pull series on just, giving you a lot of tips and answering questions on should you pull the character or not, a lot of that could actually change the perspective moving forward with this change. And so I think that's really exciting. Vixen, what are some of your thoughts on this?
Well, like you said, my initial thoughts are kind of similar to yours because my thought is, okay, there's no other game, because people are always going to bring it up to like Star Rail and Zenless or some of these other games that are going to be like this, especially something like the other games that kind of would separate the banners most likely in the future, especially the weapon banners. For Star Rail, they switch up the Lycon banners. They're 2 separate things. So with Genshin, or with Star Rail, sorry, if you go for the light cone and you miss it, you're going to get a standard light cone, and then you'll be guaranteed for that light cone. And before, that used to be better than going for the weapons in Genshin, because Genshin was if you could possibly go 3 times and go 80 wishes at 240, and the maximum to get a character guaranteed is 180. So it was worth more to get the weapon than it was a character, and that really didn't make a lot of sense. But now it's only 2 80s, which is 160, and that's if you just have extremely bad luck. But the thing here is that you have to remember, for instance, like Rift was talking about, now, instead of, let's say, that light cone banner where, okay, I'm going to go for, I don't know, Kafka's light cone. Okay, well, I go for this light cone and I miss it. Oh, no, and I get some light cone that I maybe didn't want or need, and then I can get Kafka's light cone. But it's kind of a standard, great, or whatever. But in here, in Genshin's banner, you actually have the chance to get the other weapon. Now, I know some weapons have very niche abilities, and as we get through the game, more and more weapons are kind of like that, but it's never bad to get an extra 5-star weapon for stat sticking, for just anything else that can be really big help. So for instance, like Rift was talking about, if he was going for Staff of Homa, and this was only a 1 fate point system, and let's say he didn't even have Yelan at that time, if he was going for Hu Tao's weapon, Staff of Homa, and he got Aqua Simulacra instead, now he's guaranteed for the Staff of Homa. It makes him feel better because now he immediately can get it, and it's immediately guaranteed to be the next 5-star weapon he has. But it's also a positive, because even if you lose getting the weapon, you now have a chance of getting the other weapon on the banner, which before used to not be great, because for me, I lost twice and got 2 great magics, which are Linny's weapon, and I don't have Linny, until I got Arlecchino's weapon. But now, only getting one of those would actually be okay, and I feel like a lot of people would actually be okay with that rather than getting 2 copies and then getting the weapon they desired. Sometimes getting the extra weapon, even for a stat stick on a different character, can be nice, but when it happens 2 times in a row, it's a little annoying.
Yeah, I think those are a lot of great points. And just once again, I'm so excited for this change. It makes the weapon banner just look a lot more appealing to really all manner of players, whether you're new even, and that could be debatable, and that just depends on the weapons themselves on the banner. If they're just both goated weapons, you really can't lose in that scenario, and especially if it's a DPS's weapon, which I know, Vixen, you're one for that. So anyways, moving on to our next thing, and I think this is what a lot of people have been really excited about. This is the increased drop rates for the promotional 5-star characters in a mechanic called Capturing Radiance. And if you did watch the live stream, you know exactly where we're going with this. On the limited banners, so right now we have Emily and Yelan. So this mechanic we're about to talk about only works on Emily and Yelan's banner for 5.0, Mulanni and Kazuha, right? So now, previously, let's just talk about how it works previously. So you have the 50-50 mechanic, right? So let's say your last character you just got was a premium, promotional character, right? Like Sejuin. Now, you're not guaranteed to get the next 5-star. You have to, quote, win your 50-50, right? Well, now, after 5.0, once this mechanic is installed into the game, this Capturing Radiance changes it to where if you are on a 50-50, meaning the last character you pulled was the promotional character, so let's just say Sejuin again. So the 50-50 is still in play here, and if you win the 50-50, after having just previously gotten Sejuin, let's just say, there's also a 55% chance to see Capturing Radiance. And it will be depicted by when you do the wish, it'll have a little bit more than just the gold glow. It'll have a little intertwined fate on the wish itself, and also kind of have a little bit of a purple hue in there as well. That is the Capturing Radiance. And when you see that, you know you're getting the on-banner character, that limited character. And that's a 55% chance of happening, 45% chance of not happening. So essentially, what this all means is you now, instead of having to win a 50-50, it's a 55-45. And so now it just means you have increased odds of winning your 50-50s. And for people like me, this is a great change because I have a very, very poor history of wishing where I pretty much lose a 50-50 every single time. Throughout all of Fontaine, I only won 1 character. And guys, it wasn't even a character, it was a weapon. So that's even worse. It felt even worse. So for someone like me, this is awesome. But Vixen, what do you have to say on this?
Well, yeah, to an extent, this is going to be great because obviously it's a chance at happening. This isn't always going to happen. It's not, you don't, for the rest of time, basically, from my knowledge of what they're stating about it, from our understanding, it's not a this will happen, but there's a chance. So this is not a guaranteed for the rest of time. Never mind getting rid of the 50-50, it's now a 55-45. It is still going to be a 50-50 most of the time. The Capturing Radiant event can happen on top of that and be like every once in a blue moon, you might see this pop up. So don't expect it every time you get a 5-star character, but be happy about it because once again, it's not going to always give you the weapon or give you the character, sorry. It's only going to happen, you know, it's just giving you that extra 5% chance, which for people who consistently are losing their 50-50s, you know, that's going to be a lot more probably helpful for those people who are, you know, probably, you know, even still, it could help anybody really because it's always a higher chance to get the actual character. So, I mean, I'm extremely excited about this. This is going to help both of these types of things, changing the banners a little bit and the optimization in it makes Genshin actually now more worth it to play than the other games. I know a lot of people played, you know, jumped away from Genshin now to go play some other games because more rewards, more this, more that. It was easier. The system was better for pulling. But now Genshin has in one patch flipped its sides, never mind to just be level with the other games, but has shot past them by a mile. So it's extremely good to see that, you know, once again, the king reigns supreme, if you will, but to see once again that Genshin's kind of taking these changes is very nice to see.
It's definitely very nice to see, like you're saying. I think it will maybe spark that, you know, or reignite a fire in some players that maybe left for another, maybe to just come back, not to leave another game that they went to. I mean, at the end of the day, they're video games, do what you want, you know, and if you got burnt out, that's a different thing too. So, you know, like you said, lots of great changes. A lot of these changes we didn't see coming, and it was such a pleasant surprise, like shock moment, like what? They're doing what now? And it's just awesome. I cannot wait. Natlan is going to be awesome. And one other thing, I kind of wanted to elaborate on Capturing Radiance in case you still just don't understand. There actually is in the Hoyo Lab, if you do use that, you can go over to their info pages and find it. They do elaborate a little bit on it, how it works, and try to put it in a way where basically razor language. Okay, so I kind of just want to go over that real quickly just to make sure we're getting this correct, because we don't want to give you guys misinformation either. So they have a question here. They say, what is Capturing Radiance? How can I, quote, capture it? And here's the answer. The Capturing Radiance mechanic is a new mechanic that can be triggered when you pull on event wishes. Once again, this only works on the character event wishes, right? Now, when you pull on these, if you win a 5-star character, but it is not guaranteed to be the promotional 5-star character, there is a chance of triggering the Capturing Radiance mechanic. So you have to, quote, be on your 50-50. And you have to win that. So after Capturing Radiance is triggered, the 5-star character you win in the event will be the promotional 5-star character like we've been talking about. Does it mean that the boosted drop rate will be higher in the future? And the short answer to that is yes. The Capturing Radiance mechanic is triggered by chance, like we also talked about a little bit. But what is the actual probability? And we actually do know the probability of Capturing Radiance to trigger. So including the possibility of triggering Capturing Radiance, when you win a 5-star character on the 50-50 in the event wish, there is also a consolidated probability of 55% that it will be the promotional character. Okay? So stay with me here, guys. Some people have asked, will this mechanic affect the original soft pity and the hard pity guarantees? And it doesn't. So it's not going to mess up anything about how wishing worked before. This is just simply an addition. Okay? Doesn't affect the guarantees. The Capturing Radiance mechanic only triggers in cases where the 50-50 applies, right? So like I mentioned a lot earlier on, you have to be on the 50-50. If the last character you pulled was Mona, then your next 5, there's no way a Capturing Radiance will trigger. You have to be on the 50-50. So in simple terms, it increases the chance of directly obtaining the promotional 5-star character from a 50-50. And that, once again, the chances of that is a 55% of Capturing Radiance happening. So it's just increasing your odds of winning. But if you already lost, then that's just going back to the regular mechanics. I kind of just wanted to elaborate a little bit on that because they do have a little bit of that in the website on Hoyo Lab, and you can look that up too. Well, anyways, guys, I know that might have been a lot of information, but we did want to briefly cover those main 3 things because I think, and all of us could agree, those are the main 3 takeaways with just 5.0 in general. those are some crazy changes, and like I've said all this video, I'm so excited. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I can't wait to step into Natlan and just see how these new mechanics work and just be able to actually maybe win some 50-50s as a result of this, because that'll be a kind of a first, maybe second time that it's ever happened for me. So that's everything for this video. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments, what you guys think of these changes, and with that out of the way, we'll see you guys in the next video.